Hello, Miss Nikisha here from the Long Branch Free Public Library, and today we have Josh, and he's going to be teaching us how to use um, Mario Maker 2 to create your own game. So take it away, Josh.
All right, thank you. And welcome everybody if you're watching this live or recorded at the library. So this is my presentation, Learning Level Design, and we're going to be using the game Super Mario Maker 2 to kind of talk a little bit about making levels in it, as well as just overall game design and level design for any future game designers watching this. And this is the first time I'm running this presentation virtually, so I'd like to thank the library for giving me the opportunity for doing so. And this should be a very interesting talk. The original idea was to kind of do this in person, allow the patrons to bring their Switch, or I would have my Switch on hand to kind of demonstrate. And there'll still be a demonstration portion later on, but we'll have to see how it works with everything being virtual. So, to begin with, who I am. My name obviously is Josh Bycer, and I run the website and channel Game Wisdom. And for the last 8 years, I've been trying to raise awareness and grow the understanding of game design. In that time, I've interviewed over 600 people in the industry throughout the world, from people who worked at major studios to developers just starting out. And that's kind of where I built my knowledge and understanding of design. And of course, I run a YouTube channel where I put up videos, interviews, and all that. And there'll be links to that later on in this presentation. I'm also, at the moment, a two-time author on game design. One of my books is all about platformers, which works very well when we're talking about Mario Maker. And I'm currently writing 2 more books that will be out later this year. And I'll put up some links and slides to that at the end of this presentation. But let's begin very quickly for people who don't know what we're talking about. So what is Super Mario Maker 2? This was a program that Nintendo released. The very first version came out a few years ago, just as Super Mario Maker. And the idea was to basically release an editor program for Mario, specifically something for people who have no knowledge or skill, when it comes to programming games. And video game programming, that is another topic in of itself. So with Mario Maker, the idea was, let's make something that anyone could make a level in it. And it blew up really well. And while it was originally designed to kind of make traditional Mario levels, a lot of YouTubers and Twitch streamers basically got a hold of it and turned it into just like this wild expression of levels. And for any kids watching this right now, there are well-known YouTubers and streamers who all they do is basically stream Mario Maker content. They either create levels themselves or they show off some of the most craziest and insane levels you could imagine. And a big part about that is being able to essentially share these creations. And as you can see over there, you can design it to be in different game styles. So each game style basically has its own rule set. So if you're making a Super Mario Bros. 3 level, you'll have access to things and abilities that wouldn't be available in New Super Mario Bros. U, Super Mario World, and you get the picture. And it allows people to kind of stay with the games that they like and really dive into the physics and the rule set that goes into these different games. And that will be something that we'll be talking about in a few minutes. A recent feature that was added, and this was kind of the last hurrah on Nintendo's side, is the idea of a course world. And what this is that in the original version of Mario Maker, the levels essentially existed as a vacuum. You put them up, people can download them, and they're essentially just like there. The course world basically allows you to design essentially your own little Super Mario World game, where you create the actual map, you can place levels down, you can put background environments, mini games, etc. And it's basically the closest somebody who doesn't work at Nintendo can come to making their own Mario game. And again, people have been really using this feature over the last few months. So there are some major pros and cons around Mario Maker. And again, if you don't know, this is available on the Nintendo Switch. It is a retail game. I think it's priced at either $49 or $59, and you can buy it right now. But while it is certainly one of the best retail games when it comes to allowing you to create content, there are some obvious limitations. The first one is that you cannot add anything new to it. So one of the pros of Mario Maker is that everything is designed around basically putting objects down the world, and then they all have their own internal rules and essentially what they can and can't do, their own properties. So if I put a fire flower down, I can't tell the game to make that fire flower do something else. It is locked to that. And you cannot take these levels anywhere else. They are limited to the Nintendo Switch, and they are limited to Nintendo servers. So it's not like you can take this level, upload to the internet directly, and allow anyone to play it. They need a copy of Mario Maker and they need a Switch in order to be able to experience it. And because of that, many Mario Maker creators have also found ways of designing levels on their own. Another aspect of the Mario Maker community is that there is a underground Mario editor that allows people to make their own levels. What you're seeing over there are screenshots from the games Grand Poo World 2 and Invictus. Those are considered Mario Maker hacks that the community has built to have original levels, original rules. And they are available online. Again, being able to download a game like that is definitely walking that gray side of whether it's considered fair use or not, so I can't link to where they are. But if you've watched any major streamer or YouTuber who plays Mario Maker or Mario games, they have probably played one of those two games extensively. So to talk about the entirety of game design and game development, that is a multi-hour course in of itself, and definitely too much for a library presentation. I'm sure I would bore a lot of people watching this if we got into that level of detail. So game design is all about building the overall structure of your game. This is the rules, the mechanics, and we'll talk more about what mechanics and systems are in a few slides from now. It is about building the overall scope. This is what game designers think about on a day-to-day basis. What is my game? What am I trying to, convey to the consumer? And if you're going to become a game designer, you're going to need to think about game design. That's just how it goes. Now, the difference, of course, is level design. And while both are very similar in terms of their design, there are some major differences. When we think about level design, we're thinking about we have all these elements we came up with while we were coming up with the game. How do we make something interesting and fun with them? And this is where stuff like Super Mario Maker and Super Mario Maker 2 come into play. Because Nintendo basically took the game design out of the equation and just say, here's all these tools, what can you do with them? And there are a lot of things that you can do with them, as we have seen on YouTube and Twitch. And I'm sure for anyone watching this who has played around with Mario Maker 2 can also attest to. And one of the things about level design is that it's always about coming up with new and different ways of using the mechanics at play. A game that's just about you jumping over the same gap for 10 hours is not that interesting. If you put, bouncy springs and fireballs and bombs all around, then it gets a little bit more interesting. And like I said, we're having a very streamlined discussion about level and game design because this is basically massive discussions, and I've had plenty of them with developers in the past. But the most important thing is that it is a lot harder than it sounds. And anyone who has made a game or even made a level will agree with that. Before this presentation, I thought to myself, hey, I knew about level design. Let me build like 3, 4 levels, and I can show them off here for this presentation. I could barely get through like half a level before I realized, what am I doing here? How am I building this level? And again, it's a lot harder to make a very consistent level. And I'll be talking about some of the important tips in a few minutes. Now, very briefly, it's important to understand some of the basics of game and level design, and that has to do with mechanics, systems, and dynamics. A mechanic is essentially the verb of what is going on in the game. Jump, shoot, eat food, drive a bus, you name it. Anything that the player is actively doing is considered a mechanic. It depends on the genre itself. Every genre is different when it comes to its use of mechanics, and these are handmade and locked in by the designer. The player of a game is not going to invent new mechanics. They may come with new ways of playing your game, but you are locked to the mechanics thereof. The screenshot there is, of course, of Super Mario Bros. 3 using that boot whose name always escapes me, but everyone just fell in love with that as just a power-up back in the old days. So just being able to bounce around in a giant shoe and beat up bad guys. But with Mario, it could be very quickly, we could say that jumping would be a mechanic, shooting a fireball would be one, running would be a mechanic. And there are mechanics, of course, for how the enemies and such operate. But when we discuss things from a game design perspective, we are focusing more on the player themselves. Now, systems are a collection of mechanics. And this is a way of essentially categorizing how these elements work and try to focus your thinking and understanding. These are some art that was designed around the various suits in Super Mario Bros. 3. That is Tanuki Mario in the bottom left, Frog Mario at the top, and Hammer Brothers Mario at the bottom. And in this case, the various suits, each individual suit will be considered a mechanic. The power-up or the idea of transforming Mario would be a system itself. So if you want to add a new suit, you are adding to that system. If we, for instance, say we're going to give Mario the power to hang glide, that would be a different system because it's operating under a different rule set. And then very quickly, a dynamic is a way mechanics and systems interact with each other to create unique and sometimes completely out of the blue results that the developer did not think about. This is a major reason for kind of the popularity of Mario Maker and Mario games among consumers and the Mario Maker community, that they figure out all crazy ways of how Mario interacts with the world, and then they use that in their own levels. So the screenshot there is from another Mario hack, and one of the things that the Mario hacking community has done is that they have really pushed things in terms of Mario's spin jump. In the original Mario game, the spin jump could be used to bounce on a few enemies and break blocks. In many Mario hacks, they set up elaborate courses where you have to constantly switch between a regular jump and a spin jump to make sure you land properly. And there is an entire discussion of this idea of kaizo, or incredibly difficult. We are talking, 11 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, in terms of designing a Mario Maker level, or just Mario in general, that people have really grown. And a lot of people will watch YouTubers and streamers to see how bad they do on these levels. There we go. Now, I have a video here. I don't know how this is going to work with YouTube and with Zoom at the same time, but the idea of setting up a unique dynamic when it comes to a game. Now, fingers crossed this works. I don't know how this is going to look. We'll see. Will it work? Let me mute that here. So this is footage of a glitch that was found while speedrunning Super Mario 64. That the dynamic is, of course, is that Mario can do this kind of run dash jump, And what the community found is that Mario retains that speed. And by setting up properly, they were able to basically skip almost 50 to 60% of the game. I'm going to rewind that again. So what's happening is that the player is doing Mario's run jump, and they're rapidly pressing backwards. And how this is working is that Mario is not losing his momentum. It's being built up, and he launches like that. And when I did this on stream, I was so proud of myself for being able to do this trick. And while this is more or less an extreme example of it, people have been figuring out unique ways of using mechanics and elements in a lot of games. It gets into the idea or this concept of emergent gameplay, and that is definitely a topic way too big for this discussion. But to bring this back to Mario Maker, another example would be, let's say we have the fire flower. You get the fire flower, you can shoot fireballs. And we learned that the fireballs can be used to immediately blow up the bombs. So the mechanics would be fire flower, Mario shoots fireballs. The enemy mechanic, the bomb blows up. We could create a level that is all about running through, let's say, a 30 to 60-second course, having to hit every bomb like it's a archery challenge to make sure you blow up all the necessary objects and things to get to the end. Did Nintendo design the bombs to be that way? No. But this is just one of the many, and I do mean many examples of how the Mario Maker community and people have figured out unique ways of using these. One of the craziest examples is that there are Mario Maker creators who have created puzzle levels. These are levels that require you to figure out, almost like an adventure game, how do I get to the exit? And more often than not, it's not about platforming. You have to figure out, okay, I have to jump over here, hit this goon block, get this shell to hit a block, to maybe knock over here, to then blow up a wall or hit something completely off screen, to then move on to the next section. And like I said, there is just a massive community around this game. And even if Nintendo will not continue supporting Mario Maker 2, they will probably still be making levels for years to come. Oop, let me get out there. There we go. But it is important to talk about the golden rules of what I define as good level design. And this is stuff that not only applies to Mario Maker, but applies to game development as well. So this is important stuff if you're trying to build anything that is going to be popular or what's considered to be a good level. So the first thing is the theme. The theme is essentially, what is the goal or the purpose of this level? Am I making a level that's all about bouncing on snowballs? Is this a level about driving a go-kart? Is this a level that's all about fighting bosses or popping bubbles? The theme is going to be your foundation for your level. And it's a lot harder than it sounds to come up with. Some developers, or some of the lesser examples, will make a level, that is just a confusing mess, as you could see over there on the left-hand side. Some levels are just about difficulty for difficulty's sake, as you can see on the right there. Sometimes you'll have a level that just goes all over the place. We're going to start with a bouncy challenge, then it's going to turn into an underwater section, then it's going to turn into an outer space section, then it's going to be a fire run. And the point about good level design is that you want to keep to one theme and then explore that as far as you can go with it. So the level on the left, this was something somebody created as basically a Mario Maker adventure game set in the old school first-person style. You can't see it completely due to how the picture is cropped, but basically the bottom left corner of the screen is a map. The pipes let the player decide which way they're going, and each level is designed to set up that it has the player's position, so it's emulating this idea that the map is updating when it's really not. And somebody designed that, which is just fantastic. The level on the right makes use of the on-off switches, that every time you hit the switch, the red blocks become transparent, the blue blocks become solid, you hit it again, vice versa. So this whole level is that you're essentially moving across two different paths at the same time. And what we find is that when designers keep to a theme, they keep to one unique thing they want to explore, it leads to a very coherent level because of it. Another example, of course, is from how Nintendo designs its worlds, especially with Super Mario Bros. 3 here. Each world has platforming levels, obviously, to it, and you're doing the same things in them. But the world design itself has an impact on what is going to be featured in it. So if you look at the bottom left, that is World 2 as a desert world, when the levels are designed around going in pyramids, having to deal with the sun, quicksand, things like that. The bottom right is ice. So it's going to be a lot of slippery tiles, a lot of frozen blocks for you to melt. The world, I'm blanking on my world knowledge, but I believe the world in the upper right, that is World 7, that is the Piranha Plant world. So every level features piranha plants, having you to dodge them, having to avoid their pipes, and things like that. And again, the use of the theme is that it's a framing device for your thinking. That you can think to yourself, okay, I am going to build a fire level. So what would be in a fire level? Fireballs, the pinwheels, lava. This could be a little about running away from lava as an auto scroller. And again, it's better to have one really solid idea instead of three just okay ideas smashed together. Another important point is avoiding repetition. When it comes to designing a level and by extension a game, you don't want to be repeating yourself in terms of what the player is doing. A common misstep from a lot of designers, not just in Mario Maker but in game development, is just repeating the same challenges, either just outright copying and pasting them or changing them not enough. So let's say a section requires you to jump over an enemy, the same enemy. We could repeat that and say, okay, now you're jumping over an enemy that looks blue. Now you're jumping over the red enemy and the yellow enemy. You're still not changing what the player is doing. And when it comes to avoiding repetition, Nintendo is definitely one of the masters at it. Not only with the 2D Mario games, but with the 3D ones as well. And these are screenshots from Super Mario World. 4 very different levels, 4 different uses of mechanics and elements that are going on. We have Mario swimming and avoiding torpedoes. We have Balloon Mario, and probably one of the hardest levels in Super Mario World. We have climbing a vine. We have dealing with whatever that green ball is that appears in ghost houses. And again, this is where the use of mechanics come into play. That you can think to yourself, I want to use this stuff in a different way. How do I make jumping feel different? Well, let me change the surface so it's bouncy. Well, what else can I do? Let's throw in some enemies for the player to dodge. How about collect enough coins while the player is moving around? The more ways you can explore what you have in the game, it will help to alleviate any repetition. And you need to do that, especially if you're trying to design 20, 30, 40 different levels. Now, one area where Nintendo unfortunately does slip up on is with their bosses. And the bosses in the Mario games tend to become very repetitive. You look in the upper right there, those are the Resnors that show up frequently in Super Mario World, and the fight just operates the same way each time you run into them. Same thing for the Boo battles and for the Koopa siblings. That was not easy to say down there. And if you look in the main screen, you have the various siblings right there, all 7 of them. And they basically copy the same mechanics for 2 of them. So Moore and Roy are the same, Lemmy and Wendy, Iggy and Larry, and I think Ludwig plays as another character as well. But actually, I think Morton, Roy, and Ludwig are all the same, now that I remember it right. And again, the problem, of course, is that when you start repeating yourself in terms of your mechanics, it can not only stretch the game out or pad it out, but it pads out the levels as well. And suddenly the idea of playing 80 levels where you're doing the same exact thing starts to wear on the player's mind. And this is something that a lot of developers who are making their own games have struggled with. Excuse me. But one of the most important aspects when it comes to level design and game design in general is knowing when to end. There's a tendency that more is always better. Let me make this level a 55-minute run through of, platforming and jumping and shooting fireballs and driving cars and fighting bosses. But it's important to understand that you cannot bloat out levels. A level should only be as long as you can explore whatever your theme is. If my theme, let's say it's all about bouncing on bubbles, and I can only come up with 4 minutes of unique and interesting mechanics or level design around bouncing on bubbles, then my level's going to be 4 minutes long. If I can design a brutally difficult level that can take 10 to 15 minutes of all unique and original elements, it's going to be 10 to 15 minute long level. And it sounds very simple when I say this, but it is a lot harder to do in practice, as I learned while I'm trying to design my own levels. One thing that a lot of designers will do is that they'll use the checkpoint system as essentially a way of locking down their thoughts. So one section will be built on, let's say, a 2 to 3 minute exercise of bouncing off shells. When that's done, I hit the checkpoint. We now move to a new section, and that section will have a different variation or a different set of rules. When that's done, we may have another checkpoint. You don't want to basically change gears without giving the player a checkpoint or a way to get back to it. Some developers will not do that. They will just have you run through a gauntlet of 5 to 10 different elements. And while there are players who can do this, like some of the very best Mario Maker players can be levels with less than a 1% clear rate, it's not always considered enjoyable. And one of the more fascinating aspects is that the Mario hacking community and the Mario Maker community have really grown in terms of their understanding of level design and proper design through the use of Mario Maker. And we've seen like some of the rules that they've used in Mario Maker become applied to the hacks themselves. So just having a better sense of checkpoints. Design the levels so the player knows or has an idea of what is coming up next. It's not about brutally punishing the player, but about allowing them to just kind of be able to work in that space. So another major part is, of course, ending a game or having that final level or challenge. Oh, and there's a lawnmower outside. Hopefully nobody can hear it too badly. But the final level or the final challenge of a level is usually that moment of the last hurrah. This is where you want to take whatever your theme, whatever the mechanics you've come up with, and give it that final test. Some of the community will use the final scene as like the final jump or like a joke. They'll set up like a simple jump and say, "Just do it. There's nothing bad here." And then when you jump, maybe there's a invisible block or like a fish will drop down and hit the player, and it can be very nerve-wracking. Some developers will end the level celebratory style. They'll throw out the fireworks, you'll get one-ups, hit the flagpole, you're done. In terms of the overall game, final levels are designed as supposed to be the grand test. It should test the player on everything that they've done and do it in a way that makes it feel like the capper on the experience. And there is a lot that I could certainly go into detail about. And if I do that, we could be sitting here for another 40, 50 minutes. But very quickly, that you want to be thinking about your final level in terms of who's playing it. And this is another major point about level design. Somebody who's designing a level around the Kaizo community or the super expert crowd, they're not going to put in too many affordances or too many accessibility points for casual players, because that's not what this level is about. And it's important to understand who your audience is when you're designing these levels. If you're trying to build a level so that anyone can play it, making it brutally difficult and only like there's a less than 1% clear rate is not your goal. If you are designing a Kaizo level, again, like something that is very difficult, you expect there to be less than 1%, then yes, that is correct. But when you're trying to design something for a commercial release or something you want more people to play, it's always important to think about just how far you are going with these mechanics. Nintendo has done this a lot with not only their 2D but their 3D games, that they can make their games a lot harder. But what they do is they usually have a cutoff point in terms of difficulty, that they know they can make these levels even harder, but they want people to be able to experience the story. They want them to see the end, beat Bowser, you can see on the right-hand side. And then they'll save optional or very hard challenges for the players who want to keep going forward. The story's over, you've seen the ending, but there is more game if you want to do that. So, like I said, a major part of this presentation was being able to show off levels and do things like that. And unfortunately, it's not something that we can necessarily do while we're doing things virtually. But I have set up my screen here. I'm going to be setting these up in a second, so I can show you my Mario Maker. Let's see if things are working. All right. And if you could let me know if you can see it in 1 second. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully you can see the screen. If you cannot, please let me know. Let me blow this up here. 1 second.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Great. There we go. Now, hopefully my controls will work. I'm trying to see if there's a way of lowering the game sound. And I don't know if it will let me. All right. I may be talking a little bit loud. If that happens, please let me know. But this is a level that I made, or that I tried to make in Mario Maker. And this isn't even the whole level itself. I am still trying to get things working. And I was hoping to try and get this done before this presentation. Unfortunately, like I said, level design is a lot harder. So I'm going to show you the level, if I can get these controls right. I'm so used to using it on the just the without the little hookup here. All right. And I purposely made that jump hard to begin with. And this is actually really great that you can see my trajectory. So what I could do is, let's say I could move him down here. Oh, and I still can't make it. It's not good when you can't make your own jump. There we go. And then you fail like that. But to run through what my level is, the idea is I wanted to build on the theme of using these Mega Koopas as the only major platform. So the level runs like this. You're going to run over here. You got to bounce off of this, turning off these blocks, making your way over here, climb up this rope, hit this, or get past where the objects disappear, and then make it all the way over here to this pipe, which will then take you to the second half of the level. Now, if I want to make things easier for myself, I could remove this wall, like so. And now, if I can make it over there, the level's over. Now, there are ways, of course, of making everything easier or harder. So the problem, of course, is that this is too much of a jump. So I'm going to set this guy up a little bit higher. And a major part of these levels is just figuring out what you want to do and just kind of refining and iterating on it. There we go. Oh, and then I got a little bit better. So one of the beauties of this is I'm going to see if I can create a new level. And this is the world maker itself. I can show this all very quickly. I don't have too many levels to show. And that's our little pigeon tutorial. So this is where you just basically set up the path. You put the courses down the middle there. And you can only use your world, or you can only use the levels that you've made. So we can click right here. We can set up something like this. Set up some new land. And again, it's just a way of allowing you to frame these levels. It doesn't sound all that amazing, just like on paper, but it's just a beautiful way of just allowing people to do more with that. So let me see if I can set this up here. And this is another level that I was coming up with. This is from, oh boy, this was from a while ago. I think this was like maybe like 5-6 months. No, we want to just play it here. And you can choose which character is the one you want to play with. And we can edit the course as we see fit. So this is a course about just constantly going up. Oh. And again, I'm building this on a theme. Having to keep climbing up, avoiding the spikes. And of course, if you don't jump fast enough, that happens. Yeah. So we can look at things a little bit further here. Hit this. Oh wait, I can go, let's see. There we go. And many developers or many Mario Maker players will use the kind of two different worlds, as you can see down there, in order to frame things or set things up like so. So we can look at this right here. So as you can see, I was preparing some very difficult challenges. But what I would like to do, if we have the time, and we could spend like hours making these levels ourselves, I want to make something very quickly that's designed around just a very basic design. So we'll do Super Mario World. We'll set the theme. Let's go for ground. There we go. And then we can do this. So this allows us to set where we start. Oh. And one thing that it does, it organizes everything into these various categories. So very quickly, let's set some ground. We'll do this. And it's usually considered good form that you don't leave things like looking like out of place, like having a pipe set up like that. If you want to put a pipe, you could just have very quickly a ground like that. Again, just some basic things. It's about just designing the overall quality. Now we look over here, we get supposed to be an auto scroller, which means that the screen pans on its own and you have to keep up with it. We have a timer. So let's set up, we need to set up an enemy first. So let's do this really fast. And you can hold on an item or hold on something to change its properties, as you can see right there. So we can make these guys big Goombas. And let's say that our goal is that we need to beat up all the Goombas. Oh, let's see. Do they stay on there? And again, everything about how these characters control and behave, that is hand designed by Nintendo. I can't change Luigi's properties other than what Nintendo has said. So we could start this as Big Luigi. Oh, Luigi, you get over here. Oh, I keep hitting Y, and that's not what you want to do. There you go. So we're going to set it up like this. I'm trying to speed run making a level too. We'll see if we can take care of this. So we want to set up a spring right here. And again, constantly refining and playing your level is important. So you need to know exactly what you can do. So if I made that too high, I could see how high Luigi can jump from that spring. So we put a block right here, this would be impossible to do. And Nintendo will only allow you to load levels that are beatable. So you can't make something that nobody can win. So let's set things up. So we know they can only go up to this height. That's important to know. So I'm going to set up something that's a little bit more challenging. We're going to do this. Oh, come on. I'm going to use these lovely little spikes. And we're going to make something a little bit harder. Oh, we don't want this one. This will make things impossible. All right, let's see. Set up another Goomba. Grab and put them right there. So now we come over here. We can set whatever we want. We can modify it to only hit 4. We can say 3. So what will happen now is that, there we go. If we try to beat this level without grabbing or without knocking out those 4 Goombas, the tape here will become darkened. We cannot clear it. And you can set up as many conditions as you want. So let's do one more really fast. So what's another way that we can challenge this? Again, keeping with the subject for today, we have a basic challenge. Okay, player bounces up, hits the Goombas, there's no threat or penalty. We have this. Now there is a penalty. If we mess up, we're going to take a hit. And oh, one other thing. Right here, this line represents the screen. This allows you kind of see everything in terms of screen length. So if you want to make a challenge that can only fit on one single screen, you can do that. So again, the question is, what could we possibly do using our tools here to make things harder? Let's see. Well, we have fire. And again, we can change things as we see fit. So let's try this. I don't know if this is going to work, but again, that is the nature of designing a level. It's about you figuring out, again, what exactly is going on with these levels. So we can test things out right here. All right, so that didn't work. Let's move this over here. And let's see what happens now. Okay, so I'm going to place, oh, no, not you. And you can pin stuff to make it easier to keep track of. We don't need that right now. So I'm going to place a Goomba right here. And to make things a little bit more challenging, let's see if this will work. Good. He's stuck right there. So here's our level. We can come back over here. Actually, we can restart. We'll take Luigi's position, put him right here. Now we could also just use this pipe, we could do this. This determines the rate at which things will go. Let's see, how do I rotate? I think I can rotate. Is it rotating the pipe? Pipe. There we go. So grab, I see. So let's do this. We're going to place you here. And you can use any ground model. I'm just using the blocks to make things quick. So now it's going to drop. Oh, we're going to place you right here. I'm going to make things quicker like so. Now, can we actually do this? Let's see. Uh-oh. Nope, we have a problem right there. Again, even though Luigi can jump that high, it's still, he's going to get caught by those spikes. Now, we want to make this hard. We could set it up that you have to take that hit and then do this section without it. But again, we're aiming this to be on the easier side. So let's delete that. And you obviously, and as a good point of design, you want to test each section of your level individually, making sure that each part is beatable before you move on to the next one. So I'm going to place this right here. Oh, and we have a problem. I want to try something like so. So we could do it like that. So while that certainly works, we need to make sure that that can work using the spring. I keep kicking it when I mean to put it down. And I don't think this is going to work actually. Let's see. Yeah, so we have a problem with our level. While this will certainly help, he's not killing it without being able to pound or without ground stomping. So what can we do? Well, one thing that we can do, place this here. And since we know that's not going to work, we also need to place you there. So that way he has a spot to stand on. So let's put it like this. Oh, get up there, Luigi. There's two. So this should, in theory, be beatable. Boom. Uh-oh. Let's hope I don't fail my own basic level, people. Ooh. And I think this may not actually be doable if those spikes are in the same spot. Let's see. No, they are not. So again, what we need to do, and again, this part right here, we could make this harder. We could set up a wall so that the player must jump through this specific section. And things like that you have to think about.
Sorry, Josh, it's
Yeah.
4:50. Just wanted to give
All
you a
right,
heads up.
perfect. All right. In that case, I'm going to show off very quickly beating this level and how you will upload it if you want to do it. So let's save this as a test. There we we go. And then to upload a level, let's see if I can find it here. There we go. Again, you need to clear the level and clear with all your checkpoints in order for it to work. So this is a way of Nintendo basically stopping players from making impossibly difficult levels. So we'll see if we can do this really fast. I'm not going to try and show off. And again, each Mario game has its own physics and rules. Oh, and apparently that happened there. So I would have to set something up there. Now we can edit it, but again, since we are running out of time, just very quickly, we will set it up like so. And then to give the player the opportunity to do something better, or give them a greater chance of surviving, we could set up a mushroom. Oop, that's not a mushroom. To have it appear right there, we could put it into a block. So that way players will always have 2 hits. And that is a level. Again, we spend maybe like 10 or so minutes making that. Is it the most complete level? No. But we adhere to a specific theme, we avoid repetition, and we knew how to end it. So with that, I am going to hop out here. I will switch my screen share. And back over to this. 1 second. Okay. There we go. And for anyone watching, if they have any questions, this will be the time to ask. But if you're watching this recorded and you would like to ask me any questions or have any thoughts, please definitely get in touch. And we'll have that on a slide or two going forward. But again, the beauty about Mario Maker is that you don't need a programming background in order to make these levels. I am not a programmer at all. My brain just does not work that way. But I could have designed something crazy and challenging, something simple and easy to get into. In the first Mario Maker, I made several levels that were designed as basically teaching kids math using Mario. So basically, you have to choose what pipe to go up that would solve an equation. Like if I put 3 plus 6 equals, I would have a pipe that says 9, a pipe that's 4, 15. You have to go up the right pipe, and that moves on to the next challenge. It wasn't designed to be a overly difficult level, but I wanted to explore and build things around one specific theme. And when you can start framing your thinking like that, it will help you become a better game designer, level designer, or just simply a Mario Maker creator. But I would like to thank everybody for watching this, whether you've been watching this on the live Zoom call or in the recorded version. And very quickly, I just want to talk about my books if you're more interested in my work. The 2 books I have out right now, 20 Essential Games to Study, is essentially aimed at the intro-level designer, somebody who's looking for games to be inspired by, and I basically went through some of my more favorite games there for it. And it's basically a way to kind of get your feet wet in terms of picking out games. The other one, Game Design Deep Dive Platformers, is a look at everything and anything having to do with 2D and 3D platforming, which again kind of helped frame this discussion. And I talked about the use of the 3 rules of good level design in it. And it is aimed entirely at platformers. So if you have any interest in trying to build a game that's like Mario, Sonic, Super Meat Boy, anything along those lines, definitely look into that. And my 3rd and 4th book will be focusing on the roguelike and the horror genre. But I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. If you would like to follow me and my work, my main site is game-wisdom.com. There are daily posts, my weekly design podcasts, and more. The YouTube channel where I put up videos covering games, discussing design topics, and having live interviews with developers from around the world can be found there. You can tweet or message me on Twitter at GW Bycer. That's where I'm most active. So if you have any questions, any comments you'd like to add, anything along those lines, definitely get in touch, as I'm always looking to add and iterate on these programs. But I would like again give a thank you to the library here for inviting me on. I have other programs and presentations as well covering design, being on YouTube, and more. And if you'd like to have me back, I am currently here, whether in person or while we're still stuck inside, more than happy to do another Zoom call. But thank you again for having me.
Of course, thank you, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah. I hope that was at least interesting for you and for the people who will be watching this recorded.